One thing we need to be careful of is overhyping how the generations are going to change. But the other thing is that that the massive passive sitting on their sofas watching TV aren't going to change. Because I think what we run the risk of is the younger generation who are doing things very differently, accessing content in a very different way, are training those older people how to do things. And I think the first example we've seen that is really the adoption of DVRs, PVRs. So, Sky Plus in the UK, which both of us can take some credit for, is an example where when it first came out, it was a niche product. Early adopters took it and loved it. And yes, a £17 million advertising campaign helped, but really it was word of mouth. Exactly. People in the pub going, oh, I've got to get home for the next episode of EastEnders, and someone saying, well, I don't need to, I've got Sky Plus, have another pint. Yeah. That kind of thing has taught people who would not have been seen as people who adopt that kind of technology to now adopt that technology. And now Sky Plus and V Plus, all of these are now mainstream technology. Well, and we can see the same with OTT.
I think that's right. I mean, certainly Sky Player or DVR in general is the one television innovation I've seen in 20 years or whatever it is, that everybody would die in a ditch rather than give it back. Mm-hmm. But on the other hand, isn't the fact that it's local storage and it's so convenient and it's so intuitive in terms of, 3 pushes of a button gets you the thing recorded and that's all you have to do, that I might say that that's actually anti things like push VOD.
But isn't that what OTT needs to become, is 3 buttons and it works? And that's the challenge for the industry, is it's 3 buttons and it works.
But it's that, I mean, in the end of the day, all a DVR does is disintegrate your schedule. And that's all that catch-up TV does. And in a sense, isn't that as far as it goes? I don't want to lean forward any further than that personally.
I think that's somewhat true, but I think you should look at DVRs, on-demand, catch-up TV services, video-on-demand, pay-per-views. If they can be delivered either from local storage or from the cloud or the head end or the internet, they should actually appear to be no different for the general user. They can just get what they want when they want. So assuming that we get the right networks that we're expecting, I think you will get, as you said, the OTT services, 3 clicks and you're done and you found the thing that you wanted. So it may shift from being local storage to something that's in the cloud and delivered over the top. But the experience for the user, I don't think they'll distinguish very much. They would get more choice from an over-the-top service, a bigger catalogue.
Well, there is the paradox of choice that we need to be careful of, and that's where we need to look at good search technologies, good recommendation technologies. But one point I just want to go back to, because you said, watch what they want when they want. The other one that we've kind of skittered over is where they want, which is OTT is also about enabling consumers to be mobile, to take their media experiences, which they have in the home on their big TV, and take that onto a smartphone or a tablet and take it elsewhere in the house and then elsewhere in the country, and if rights allow, elsewhere in the world.
And this is another key defence mechanism for the current pay TV players and network operators, that they will enable this.
They have to enable that. I mean, but if they're not quick, someone else will. I mean, and that's the beauty in some senses of what Apple is doing, is they are enabling this content to get all of these different devices. Yes, the choice isn't great yet, but pay TV operators need to react to that and start getting the broad range of choice they have onto all of these different devices.
I would say your average teenager is already doing that by themselves, just by copying files.
Yes.
So if you can make it less of a file-based experience and something that's easy for an average person that's over the age of 8, then it will probably become popular, given all the other conditions that you just mentioned, if we're allowed to do it officially.
But some of our research, which was quite worrying, is we did some research in France where the teenagers were teaching the 40-year-olds enough about how to use BitTorrent to get to the content that they wanted. And it wasn't the fact that the people wanted content for free. Once you're 40, you're quite happy to pay for stuff. It's the fact that they couldn't actually pay for it. The only way they could get to the content they wanted was to get it to it illegally, which gets all the way back to the question for the studios and OTT, is the studios have to realize that if they don't make rights available to deliver to all of these devices all of the time, anywhere, that they will just push people into a BitTorrent world.
I mean, if the studios accept that I have to now make this available in many more territories, much closer to the theatrical window, otherwise it's probably going to get pirated anyway, and I need to make it available on all these different devices, but I'm probably going to make less money that way because, you know, my real cash cow was the DVD window, which is kind of disappearing. If I'm going to lose that money, what I better do is disintermediate all the pay TV operators and go direct, you know, maybe through a Best TV UI or something, as the Universal or the Universal Fox MGM, well not Fox obviously, but MGM Universal Film Channel. And I don't need to go through intermediate.
I think they need to be careful because that's where TV everywhere was born. It was that kind of discussion. They suddenly realised that if they were going to disintermediate, then another good customer of theirs, which were the pay TV platforms, were going to get annoyed at them. So
I think that's
we go backwards and forwards between the two.
And our experience with content providers is let's say, on the same line. They don't want to upset the distribution people. They don't want to compete with Comcast, neither with Sky. They want to have better price. Exactly. And of course OTT will allow them to say, look, if you don't pay me what I'm worth, then I can go somewhere else. So there will be an adjustment, but they prefer to go through the distribution channels that are in place. They don't want to disintermediate them. I think that the key is the fact that it's like a spiral that instead of going down out from the center is going into the center, where the center is the TV. The main consumption, it's like the fridge in the house. You know, the food is in the fridge, nowhere else. The content has been consumed for ages through the TV, and the experience is phenomenal. Yeah, when my father bought Sky HD in Italy, and it put the SCART, it didn't put the HDMI cable. I completely agree with what you said about the 14 years old teaching. My father will have ADSL at home because I made that need for him. He had no idea to have it. But anyway, when I put the HDMI cable for him and really showed him the HD, he was ecstatic. And I mean, the PAL experience is not that bad as the NTSC experience. You know, it's still, but it was just, so I can't have that experience on the laptop or the mobile. It's the mobile, the laptop, I agree with you, are ancillary places where I want to bring my content to. When I travel, and I'm on the plane, and I have stuck 3 hours in here, and there's no video on the plane, well, I would love to open my laptop, play, press, and have something going without having to BitTorrent, download, load my DVD.
Well, and to have had it sufficiently integrated by your pay TV provider or whatever.
Right, so that I don't have to worry about rights and
you
paying.
can start the program where you stopped it.
Right,
TV.
exactly. I want that experience, right? But the key, the center, is still the living room with the 50 inches HD screen, and nobody has yet conquered that one. I mean, it's owned by broadcaster and TV operator right now, but OTT is now getting to that device. That will be a very interesting battle to watch. From the Best TV perspective, our strategy, just to get out of any big battle with big guys like, you know, OpenTV or Nagra or NDS, is that we believe that one day somebody will win that battle, no doubt. And probably it won't be Best TV unless Best TV really crack the nut and become Google. I don't know, well, hope. But the point is, we want to give a monetization period over the transition. So it's like, okay, so let's say that in 5 years from now, somebody wins. It's the iPlayer, and it is on an OTT you view set-top box. Great. What do you do from now till the next 5 years as a broadcaster? Wait, die, because it's not going to last 5 years, the revenue from advertisement. We provide a transition platform. So we'll use your network now to do pay TV today on your network without any upgrades, just the box. It's an hybrid box, so you have a transition platform to OTT if OTT becomes the way to deliver. And if somebody at some point is the iPlayer, you just have to switch off your box and just divert your exit channel from the broadcasted end into the iPlayer. But you already organize your company on a pay TV business over OTT. It's a big transformation that broadcasters still have to do. It's not just turning on OTT. Yeah. This is true for Apple or Google, but for a broadcaster, it's like, this is like going to the moon. Yeah. and saying that on the moon there is a great battle and who wins that battle, but I'm still stuck on Earth. So how do I get to the moon to play that game?
So this is to develop back office functions, transactions.
Right, all these things, right. It's the subscriber management and how it's just, it's not that much the service in itself because you can pay-per-use everything in that infrastructure. It's the concept. They don't even have a division that thinks pay TV. Their market does not think that way. This is a generational, that's where Best TV and its partner, Motive Television, that's where we are paying attention, how we make that transformation happen.
So, I mean, this points to where pretty much every media industry, they're the guys who are only advertising funded, and they're the guys who are only transaction, subscription funded. Yeah. And actually, the advertising funded only guys need to start doing subscriptions and pay-per-view. And the subscription guys start doing more with advertising. So in a more competitive environment that OTT generates, I mean, in the end of the day, what OTT is about is bringing more competition to the TV screen, is you need to have more routes to monetization. So you need to look at all that are available and go for them. I think one thing about our industry, the TV industry or video industry in general, is our costs are very real. In order to deliver, video, quality video that consumers want to watch on their TV screens, that actually costs a lot of money, and that money has to be made back. One could argue in the music industry could die in the way that it died with the birth of MP3s, because it really didn't need the money that it was getting, because actually people will produce and record music pretty cheaply. In fact, technology has made music much cheaper to produce and deliver. Whereas in many senses, technology is making video actually more expensive to produce and deliver, more expectations from consumers. And therefore, we have to protect that monetization.
This is because of HD and potentially move to 3D, etc.
HD, 3D, but it's also that, now we can create amazing graphical effects, but, creating graphical effects costs a lot of money. It costs, you would think that now, we have fully computer-generated animation, that might somehow be cheaper than people drawing on pieces of paper. But that hasn't turned out to be the case, has it?
I assume that we're not great fans of UGC becoming some huge part of over the top that people will want to watch on their 42-inch
I think people get very confused about UGC. I think it's interesting, and if you can present it on the TV,
it's not often very interesting.
It's amusing. So you'll find, I will spend some time researching stuff that you can't get. So I actually think there's a continuum of stuff that everybody will watch together on broadcast, and then another percentage will watch some catch-up TV, and then maybe some DVD download kind of type content, and then also UGC. So I think it's all part of the same system.
Continuum of content. Yeah. And I'd say there's actually a very interesting category that could emerge, really powered by OTT, is what we call the mid-tail content. So you've got YouTube and effectively free, worthless content at one end, and you've got Premiership football at the other, and in the middle, this mid-tail, which is content that has value, can be monetized, but is aimed at very niche audiences in such a way as even traditional on-demand technology cannot really, it's not really funds. And so, you can think in terms of very low, in the UK, it would be very local football matches. You could have, in a football club, could have 10, 20,000 supporters who will pay extra to be able to watch any football match they've missed in a quality setting. In the US, it would be, high school football, which would be an example of where it doesn't make it onto mainstream television, but there is a large audience who actually wants to watch it.
Which is exactly where Mark Cuban made his billions from selling broadcast.com to Yahoo. He was doing college football and encoding it 10 years ago and pumping it out over the internet. He managed to persuade the people that was worth a lot of money.
You persuade them, I think that's the key phrase, isn't it? I mean, I'm not convinced by that in European.
I think that there's a place for it, but believing that that's going to be all and end all of everything is not it. It's part, as we said, it's part of that continuum of content.